takes about a 3-day accounting job for most small carriers and turns it literally into, a 2 to 5 minute exercise.
You're listening to the BulkLoads podcast, your number one resource in everything bulk freight trucking. And this is episode 223.
Hey guys, Jared Flynn with the BulkLoads podcast. Got Tyler in here with me.
How's it going?
Good. Today we're going to bring on Konexial, and if you've never heard of them, this company, in my opinion, is moving and shaking. I was impressed when we did this podcast with Ken and Kristin. This company, honestly, you can just tell the passion that they have. But we're going to bring on Ken Evans. He is the CEO and co-founder of Konexial, along with their marketing manager, Kristin. I'm going to get her last name wrong. Is it
Rakoczy?
Rakoczy, I think. I think it's Rakoczy. But they were gracious to come on and talk about their ELD. But more importantly, they have some automations within their ELD for the HOS exemptions. So for ag commodities, short hauls, personal convenience, livestock hauls, they have a simple solution built in their ELD that does, and correct me if I'm wrong, Charlie, but like they have these geofences set up.
Yep.
So it makes it very hands-off for the driver and to do this. They don't have to push buttons and know when they're in and on or out of that circle. By geofencing, they can know with pinpoint accuracy when they're in the radius versus not in that radius.
Yeah. One thing actually Ken said in the podcast, which I didn't actually know, but he said 150 air miles is about 172 statute miles, which is a cool little interesting fact. But yeah, I mean, this thing is geo-intelligent, so it knows when you're in the radius, when you're out of the radius. That way, if you ever get questioned, pulled over by DOT or anything like that, it's all logged right there.
And we're going to put all the links in there, and we're going to talk about it after the podcast. But they have a lot more than just the ELD, and we're going to get to that after the show. Again, these people, in my opinion, are, really enhancing the services and products for carriers out there, making it so much simple. So with that said, here's my conversation with Ken and Kristin of Konexial. Ken and Kristin, thanks for coming on.
Hey, thanks for having us, Jared. It's our pleasure to be here.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I'm excited about this show because we have a lot to unpack, and we're going to get right into it. With that said, and Ken or Kristin, I'll let you start off. Tell us the elevator pitch. Who is Konexial? Who are you guys?
Yeah, so I'll give my best step, and then Kristin will correct all the things I get wrong. But Konexial is it's a logistics and transportation tech company, and it really was started 6 years ago because we saw that the industry needed better products and services. And what I'll tell you is that the company was founded by 4 people who all had 25 years of logistics, transportation, supply chain experience. So it was not a tech startup out of Silicon Valley. This was the startup of industry experts who said, we can build better technology than Silicon Valley. And so we started kind of at the owner-operator level back in 2017 with our first product, our ELD product. And we've just been building nonstop for 5 years, and we've got some really great tech, and that's kind of what we do. Kristin, what would you add to that?
Well, I'll add that our team and our headquarters is based in Knoxville, Tennessee. So I'm sure, as you can hear in our voice, we are Southerners. We are everyday people. So we've got a great support team that supports and serves our drivers. They are the main reason for the things that we do, our drivers. So our team is just, here to serve drivers. We're here to serve the trucking and transportation industry, and we try to do that with amazing and superb technology that we can build every day.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I guess I would just add to what Kristin said. It may not be obvious, but all of our customer service and sales personnel are in the Knoxville, Tennessee area. So we're one of the few technology companies that didn't send tech support overseas to the Philippines or to India, we feel like it's very important that we man the phones with people who are actually here and who are compliance experts. So you get not only tech support, but you also get support for your compliance.
Yeah, we have the same passion as you all, and yeah, I guess not too far away here in Missouri. So I mean, I consider you guys Midwesterners too, in that retrospect.
Yep, and we are members, proud supporters, and members of the Midwest Truckers Association as well. So we have a lot of customers in that Midwest region.
Kristin, who would you say is really the heart of your customer? Like, who are you all really going out and targeting? I mean, trucking's a big space. I mean, you have all different shapes and sizes of companies, but who's really in that sweet spot of who you all cater to?
That's a really great question, because like you said, it is a wide range of customers. So, you have your owner operators, your onesie twosies, and then we can also serve fleets of 500 to 1,000 trucks. And then within the last couple of years, we've developed some really great technology that supports and caters to ag haulers. So the My20 ELD is has a really great geotechnology feature for ag haulers. So we've kind of found a really sweet spot in those ag hauling communities.
And I think that's what we're really going to dive into. Before we do that, especially for the ag haulers, tell us about, because there's a couple other products that you all offer besides the ELD. Can you just maybe high level elaborate on those?
Yeah, I'll give it my best shot and keep it brief. But so as we said, we started with ELD, which we're going to talk in depth here about how does ag work with ELD and this ag technology. But we've built that out into a full-fledged fleet management system. So we're literally able to do anything that any of your Samsara, Motive, et cetera, those guys can do. We do see a lot of Omnitrax customers moving over, and Verizon as well. But in that system, those systems, you're going to get all sorts of advanced capability, like engine diagnostic codes that your truckers are producing. You would get ability for geo alerting, monitoring your miles per gallon. It's just a rich feature set. So if you're managing a fleet, it's about what is the data your truck is producing, that your trucks are producing, and how can that be used to make you more money. So the fleet management is kind of the upgrade from ELD. And then we augment that for companies that are interested. We have probably the best AI camera system on the market. So AI being artificial intelligence. And what's really cool about it is we can actually demonstrate with data that fleets that are using these AI cameras with their drivers are actually becoming safer. And we can actually show with data that fleets that implement see an 80 to 90% reduction in distracted driving events within about 6 weeks. So it's a huge needle mover to try to help drivers focus on their task, and it does a really great job at that. So those are kind of the products, the technology pieces, but we also have what we call services, right?
Yeah.
So you'll see us on our website. You'll see GoMatRx. You'll see GoFuel. You'll see GoLoad. Well, those are technologies to help you with those things. So GoMatRx is a telemedicine service that we offer to drivers and their families. GoFuel is a fuel discount program where a fleet of any size can get a large fleet type discount through this program. Just by aligning their fuel credit with the program. And then GoLoad is a product that's been in development for several years, but it's the idea of being able to send targeted loads to drivers, owners, and based on their location, their equipment, and their hours of service.
Wow.
So it's a very broad thing. What I would tell you is Konexial and My20 is for trucking what Apple is for the consumer. It's about a user experience, and it's about making life better for people who use the products. So Kristin will do a better job filling in the blanks of what I missed.
No, I think you covered
Yeah,
it.
you did great there.
You covered it well, and I love that you brought the Apple thing. Before we started
Okay.
recording this, I mentioned kind of the heart, who our drivers are, and very, I wouldn't say old school, but just simple minded, clear. They don't. I mean, some of the guys we work with, technology is something they fear. So we even on our side, BulkLoads being a technology company, we try to break down that barrier. That this isn't something you have to be fearful of using.
So, Jared, do you remember, this goes back in time quite a ways, but you remember when Apple really started to become the Apple we know today? They did an ad campaign and they did a commercial called The Crazy Ones, right? And so if you look at what we're doing carefully, we're actually comping a lot of their ideas, which are really great ideas, right? But the reason I bring up Apple and the Crazy Ones, we actually have what I'll call a brand. Who is Konexial? Who are these people? And our video, if you'll just go to YouTube and type in the working ones, it's a 1 minute, it's a 1 minute ad. And basically it is all about, what are we about as a company? Who do we serve? Why do we serve them? And you're not going to hear anything about our products. You're not going to hear anything about technology. It's just that ethos that's behind our company. And like Apple says, their company is, it's 2 words, think different. Well, our company is also 2 words, but our 2 words are drive life. And that means 2 different things to us. It means helping people who are living the driving life. That's one thing we do through this excellent technology, superb technology, but also helping people take their life and drive it where they want to go and get accomplished what they want to accomplish. So that's really what we're all about.
Yeah, I love that. And we'll actually put that link to the YouTube page
That'd be awesome.
in our show notes for sure.
Cool.
Well, we can talk for hours on all of this. I mean, I think, and maybe we'll even have a second podcast to break down. I think we want to really get into the ELD, and especially for ag haulers, because that's who our audience is. I want these guys to really understand the solution that you guys are providing with that. So let's just jump right in and talk about that solution. And again, these drivers know this more than I do as far as the ELD, but I know like there's actually software and hardware. Some can be done just from a software. Some you have to have a hardware. But let's break that down into simple terms. What solution are you all offering for ag haulers, especially when it comes to hours of service?
Sure. So ELD is an electronic logging device mandated by the FMCSA. And what makes Konexial, the My20 ELD special, especially in the ag space, it's the only geo-intelligent ELD on the market. And what I mean by that is the ELD not only is reporting where the truck is and, the times the driver has been driving, but it's also constantly monitoring for these exceptions. So in agriculture, the hours of service regs give you an agriculture exception of 150 air miles from point of origin. And if you're hauling live animals, so livestock and or insects, you actually can get a second 150 air mile circle around destination. And what happens is when you're inside of the circle, your hours of service are paused or frozen because time inside those 150 air mile circles from a regulatory standpoint is treated as the equivalent of being off duty. Okay.
Yep.
So what we made when we made our ELD app, basically we made the app also have a GPS turn-by-turn direction system in it. Okay. So there's a map in there, just like Google Maps or Apple Maps or whatever you're most comfortable with. But what's cool about it is we've linked it to the ELD. And so the driver can activate this exception and say, okay, I'm going to pick up my load in Cincinnati, Ohio, and I'm going to take it to Texarkana. Okay. And when he sets that origin for the load, right, wherever that happens to be, it's going to draw a 150 air mile circle on the map, and then the ELD technology actually monitors against that. So you can see it visually, and unlike all the other ELDs on the market, it's not the driver's responsibility to know where that boundary is and then to stop and notate it. So what makes this really cool is that as our drivers, once they're in the circle and say exiting, the technology notates everything automatically for the driver. As soon as they cross the boundary, the clocks start working, and now you're bound by regular hours of service. So we've done some ROI calculators, but it's saving on average 15 to 20 minutes of the driver's time for every crossing of that boundary. Okay. And so it's real money in real time that these guys are no longer having to know where the boundary is. The app will tell you as you're approaching the boundary, and they'll tell you when you've crossed the boundary, and you'll see your clock start moving automatically.
Wow.
Yeah.
Couple of follow-up questions with that. And this isn't a regulatory podcast. I don't want to go down that. But from my understanding, with hours of operation, when you have that 150-mile radius, like you're on the clock until you get in that circle, and then you're off the clock. So if you have 4 hours clocked of drive time, that 4 hours is froze, and you're in that circle. And then once you go back out of that circle, that clock,
it's got to turn back on. Yeah.
But it doesn't reset. You got 4 against you on that period.
Yeah. So for example, you've set up an origin. Say you're coming into the origin and you're, 200 miles away. Okay. 200 air miles away from origin. As you're driving in towards that 150, you're burning clock time, right? So say you take an hour to get into that circle. Once you cross into that circle, though, your clocks then freeze. And as long as you're in that circle, they stay frozen. So I can go pick up the load. I could go 3-4 places to pick up all the load inside the circle. And then once I head back out, once you cross back out, now your clocks resume. So it's an effective way to extend your range in time and distance, and to basically be able to go further and serve more as a result of using that exception in the HOS.
And it's strictly on the origin unless it's livestock, and then it's on the destination too.
Yeah, so all agricultural exempt commodities, and they're listed in the regulations, can get the origin, right? And certain states now do have a harvest season, so some of them don't let you operate, say, in the wintertime. It's up to you as the driver to know what those are in the states that you're operating. But if you're hauling an ag exempt commodity, it's exempt 150 air miles at the origin. And it's really important here we talk for just a second about what is an air mile. Because we've had DOT officers, we've had truck fleet owners that didn't know what the difference between a statute mile and an air mile is. And so when you look up, say, on Google Maps, how far it is from A to B, they're giving you statute miles, which is measured on how far it actually is on the road.
Right.
Okay.
Yep.
An air mile is different. An air mile and a nautical mile are the same thing. An air mile and a nautical mile are longer than a statute mile, okay, because of the curvature of the earth. So it actually ends up being about 172 statute miles, but we monitor the air miles and draw the circle appropriately, and you know exactly where it is. And we even have written a white paper about that. So if our drivers ever need to present that to a DOT officer who doesn't know what an air mile is, with all the citations, so they can get it right.
When would that driver possibly be presenting that information to a DOT officer? Or would it be just over the scale if he gets pulled over? I mean, is there any other time?
Yeah.
I mean, is some of that stuff just, I guess, saved in the app that may never be used?
Yes. So all of the information is saved in the app, right? So we maintain full data on everywhere the driver goes and what status he's in per the mandate. We have to do that.
Right.
But the only time that data is going to get transmitted is if you're requested at roadside or in, say, a back office inspection, if the government comes in and says, hey, I've got to see your activities for this period of time, or at the roadside, and then you just hit a button and you can upload your data, and it's only your current cycle. So if I get stopped today and say I'm on an 870 or a 870 cycle, 8 days, 70 hours, right? I'm going to transmit to them the prior 8 days of activity, and they're going to be able to look at it and see if I'm in compliance or not.
Okay. Let's talk a little bit about the software versus hardware, depending on the operation, because, and I could have this wrong, I'm not an expert in, some of these guys are running pre-admission rigs where they necessarily don't have to have an ELD, or it's not a requirement.
Right.
Would that person need to be using this technology?
So there's a couple of reasons people use this technology. So with very few exceptions, the ELD mandate applies across the board. One of those exceptions, which I think you're referring to, is if you have a pre-2000 truck, anything that was manufactured before the year 2000 is exempt from the ELD mandate of having to have one. Okay. And the primary reason is because most trucks before the year 2000 did not have all the protocols or the computers, the ECMs necessary to report the info. So over time, those are all going to go away just due to equipment aging out and being too expensive to maintain. So from a compliance standpoint, the way to think about it is if you're running a truck that's after 2000, you're going to be required to use the technology. But then, what is an ELD? So we've alluded to that. Is it software? Is it hardware? And the answer is it's both, because ELD is the complete system. So for us, it's a little hardware device that hooks onto the truck, and literally our device can install in 10 seconds. When you plug it in, it's about 10 millimeters tall. So it's no taller than my pinky. It doesn't stick out 2 inches, right?
Where on most trucks does that go? I don't even have an idea. Where would that be placed?
Yeah, so it depends on your make and model truck, but most of them have them either on the dashboard or on the floorboard or near the driver's seat. But they're little ports. So if you've ever looked at the port in your automobile or your light duty truck, it would be an OBD2 port. On most Class 8 vehicles, which we're talking about the users of these here, it would be a round 9-pin. It's called a Deutsch port. So there's 2 different main port sizes. We support both. But you basically, you plug it in. And when you download the app to your smart device, so we support iOS and Android, basically you can be up and running literally in a matter of minutes. So it's a very easy process to install. You don't have to do wiring or any of that stuff. It's all wireless and works smoothly.
Let's talk about, again, just on this ELD, if I'm an ag hauler, I'm running 5 trucks, got 5 drivers that are running for me. Each truck will have to have a piece of the hardware, but then they also have the app downloading on their phone.
Right. So from a business model, I think is where you're headed with that.
Yep.
You got to buy one little piece of hardware for each truck. So ours are available on Amazon.com or directly from us. Our preference is you come to us direct.
Sure.
So that we can go ahead and support you from day one. But basically it's an inexpensive piece of hardware. It's basically a device to interface with the truck's computer and give us the data from the truck. The app is free to download. So there's not a charge for the app, but it is a subscription. So it's a subscription per driver. So you need to buy one piece of hardware for each truck that you're going to have. And then you need to buy one subscription for each driver that you're going to be wanting to manage their time on.
I imagine there's more. There's a lot of data that you capture on there. So what, as an owner, using this device, having it, all your drivers with the hardware and the software, what are their what other things can they do? What other features or options is that owner operator, or excuse me, that owner of the company going to be able to have using this technology?
So some of the things that we find to be the most popular things people are doing with the technology, they're able to see very precise mileage and time that trucks and drivers are doing. We have customers who are paying their drivers off the distance calculations. One of the areas we hadn't talked about, it really saves a ton of time, is IFTA. So if the fuel taxes are required to be filed quarterly, well, with this technology, when the computers are collecting all the mileage, we run a report, and literally with a 10-second report run, I get all of my mileage by truck, by state, and it does all the tax calculations for me. So it takes about a 3-day accounting job for most small carriers and turns it literally into, a 2 to 5 minute exercise.
We can, in this industry, data is huge, and getting all this data and capturing that, but it's also being able to use the data. And you just mentioned being able to bring that down and use that within 10 seconds. Do you all have the software for them to basically use this data? Speak on that. And then just a segue off that, I do know that you do offer integrations with other softwares, other maybe services. Can you speak on how this can even work across other lines of software?
Yeah. So it depends on the customer's need, but yes, we do have our back end service, if you will. It's a web-based tool. We call it the tower or the control tower. But it's really a simple place that I can say, here's all my drivers, where they're at, what they're doing, how many hours they have. I can see all my power units. If I'm using trailer tracking, I've got a separate screen. I can see all of those. So it's built with simplicity in mind. So, we generate a lot of data and information, but what we do, we're experts at taking this deluge and simplifying it down to answer the question that you need answered, which is, hey, how many miles did my trucks go today? How many hours do my drivers have left for today? How much money do I owe each state, or refunds am I due on fuel taxes? So it's a very easy to use thing. It's really all about the user experience. But you can basically get all of what it takes to run a fleet done inside of our system. We're actually in the process right now, and in Q4, we will be rolling out some dispatching functions and what I would call load management functions. So we basically go and build things that our customers say they need. So for example, we've got a customer that's got 20 trucks, and they're like, I want to be able to send load information to my trucks. The guy can, gather data and send me the documentation back, and I want to automate that. So that is kind of, forward-looking what's coming in Q4. We can also integrate to other solutions. So Kristin, I know you've got a list of people we already integrate to. Why don't you say who some of those folks are?
Sure. So our My20 ELD and the tower dashboard, we integrate with DriveWise bypass, way station bypass services, Project 44, Fleetio, Spirion, Orbcom, EFS Fuel Management, and that's EFS and WEX together, and a couple other very targeted integrations that current customers request.
Right. So again, we're a customer focused company, and it doesn't really matter to us whether it's a 5 truck fleet or a 500 truck fleet. What we try to understand is, what do you need from us as a supplier of technology? And we'll either have it in the toolbox already and show you how to use it, kind of come along and hold people's hand as they get familiar with it. Or in certain cases, if the customer has a need and they want to integrate, say, a TMS system, we can do those integrations really quickly. It's normally a 2 to 4 week process for us to to integrate if you're already using something.
Just to kind of wrap this up, and again, we could speak for an hour just on this, and then some of these other product offerings. But to give you all credibility, how many trucks now have this ELD installed in them across the country?
Yeah, well, we don't really talk about the numbers because we are a private company,
Okay.
but I'll tell you, it's over 15,000 people that we've done business with, and we're in our 6th year. So we're here to stay, and we're here to serve, and we do it with excellence. So you can be very confident that, Midwest Trucker Association wouldn't be recommending us. Dairy.com would not be recommending us unless they had seen the technology and knew that we could help people.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I can tell in the tone of your voice, you have a passion for this, as well as Kristin, that this isn't just, and I'll say this, some technology companies you talk to, they're all about, hey, we're here to disrupt and innovate and blah, 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 blah. It's like, well, that's not solving a need. I mean, tell me how you're going to help me, tell me how you're going to fix my business and make me more profitable. But I can hear it in your voice that you're here to really help the one truck operator all the way. If it is a 500 fleet, it's the same value add.
We really are. I mean, and don't get me wrong, we are here to innovate and be disruptive. But that disruption is focused on making our customers' lives better, right?
It
doesn't matter how disruptive you are if you're not helping the customer. And so that's really what we're all about. I mean, and we do things differently because for us, it is a passion. It's not just about, how much money can we make or how fast are we growing. We don't want to we know that we're not the biggest company out there, but we are the best, and we are committed to being the best. And, we do things like curating content and trying to build the brand. I mean, we actually have a life, we call it the life content stream inside of our app. So we don't charge for it. It's free. It kind of covers the industry news, what's going on in the world. But it's also about, well, Kristin, you tell them what's about. You do a better job at it than I do.
Well, it's about our 5 key factors for a driver's life is their financial aspect of their life, their physical aspect of the life, the mental and spiritual aspect, the economical aspect, as well as the environmental aspect. So we curate content within the industry and outside of the industry. It's not all trucking and transportation related, but we curate content around those 5 pillars. And so we're pushing content out to our drivers and our fleets on a daily basis that hits all of those aspects in some capacity throughout the week. So like this podcast, we found this podcast a couple weeks ago, and, we're very obviously interested because it does meet and talk to a lot of our customer base. So this podcast would be a type of content piece that we would then push out to our drivers and our users. So we integrate all those things directly into the My20 app.
So, Jared, I know you're into clearly you're a great podcaster, or you wouldn't have the audience you do. But I know you're always looking for fresh new podcasts to check out yourself. But one that we recently found and actually just signed on as a sponsor of is one called Coach Me Up. And it's by Jimmy Dykes and Chris Burke. So some folks will recognize that. If you watch college basketball, you're going to hear Jimmy Dykes a lot. He's a color analyst. And Chris Burks is a former All-American. He also does baseball, college baseball.
Okay.
But they've got a fantastic new podcast. It's really about helping men learn how to be, how to live life. And we're really fired up about helping them get off the ground, and hopefully a few people that listen to you might check them out as well.
Yeah, no, I'm being a podcaster, I love listening to other shows and actually recommending other shows, not just on trucking, but just how to be a better father, business person, steward. So man, I appreciate that. And I'm actually going to check that out.
Make sure to listen. They did the best episode they did was one with David Pollock. So it was like the second episode they did. and it was so good. I've listened to it 3 times. It's one of those that you just think, here's a guy that was first round draft pick in the NFL, living the dream, and he breaks his neck, and his dreams come to an end. And the most impactful thing he said that just kind of hit me square is, that's the best thing that ever happened to me, and here's why. And it's intriguing.
Yeah. Now, and I could have this wrong. Do you all have a podcast yourself or no?
We don't currently. No.
Okay.
Not currently.
Okay.
We've talked about it. So
I was going through the show notes, and I was on the website. I saw where it said podcast. Maybe it was recommending other shows.
We've done some from other shows. But yeah, we are sponsoring the Coach Me Up one. Clearly, we'd like to talk to you guys some more. And
sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think podcasting is just a great thing because it is democratization of information. You don't have to, ask somebody's permission about whether you can speak or not. And we're big proponents of the Bill of Rights.
Yeah. I love that. Yeah. Well, that's a whole nother podcast in itself. You guys are, speaking of sponsorships, I wanted to ask, because you guys right over in Knoxville, are there any upcoming events because I was going to say next year we're going to be at Matt's again, Mid-America Truck Show. I don't know if you guys were there last year. It was such a big event. That was our first time there, but absolutely loved it. But didn't know if you guys are at any trucking shows or upcoming Freight Waves events, anything like that.
Kristin, I'll let you cover that.
Yes. So we are members of the Tennessee Truckers Association. So they have several events throughout the year that we attend. But big shows, we will be at Matt's in the spring.
Nice.
We will be at the Midwest Truckers Association show, which is in February, I believe, in Illinois. So we'll be there. And then we also plan to be at the Freight Waves F3 Festival.
Nice.
Well, we also we participate with the the Milk Haulers Association.
Yes, we will be at the Milk Haulers Association. I believe their next event is in March.
Mm-hmm.
And then we are members of the University of Tennessee Global Supply Chain Forum, which the next event with them is coming up in
November.
Yep. Yeah. So we'll be there. That's a little bit more targeted, but those are our main events right now.
Yeah. Well, we'll definitely be at Matt's, so we look forward to hopefully meeting you all face to face and seeing you out there. We had a huge success out there last year.
We'll do a live podcast at Matt's together.
Yeah, there we go. For sure. So, well, Ken and Kristin, thank you so much for coming on the BulkLoads podcast. This was awesome. I think, again, we'll definitely be staying in touch, maybe doing a second, third to podcast, even encompass some of these other services and products that you offer out to our customers. So, number one, thank you all for what you guys are doing out there in the space. You guys are in technologies just like us, helping small owner operators, especially in the ag space like we are.
Mm-hmm.
So, man, congratulations there. And thank you so much for what you guys are doing.
Hey, thank you, Jared. Really enjoyed the time today.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Tyler, after this discussion or recording with them, you could tell, especially towards the end with Ken, like, hey, these are our people.
Yeah.
You can just tell their strong passion and patriotism for the country and just the passion that they have to serve our industry like we're doing.
Yeah, I immediately liked them right off the bat whenever they were talking about their support and tech and everything. It's just kept local there in Tennessee. Nothing's overseas. I mean, we bond strongly with that. That's one of our core values here as well.
Yeah. And I said this earlier on, but yeah, if you get a chance, Tyler's going to put their link on here so you can have just easy access to go. But I mean, they got these dash cameras out that, have AI technology.
Yep.
Talk about that.
Yeah. So it's kind of cool. Whenever Ken was talking about it, it actually watches the driver. But he said that their artificial intelligence technology, what it pretty much does is it coaches that driver, to be less distracted. And I think he said after about 6 weeks of implementing, they actually see I think it's like a 90% better driving score from that driver. So I mean, they have numbers to back that it works.
Yeah. And again, you probably listening to this being like, no way, Jose, man, I'm not going to let some technology track me or do this or whatever. But man, these guys are 4 drivers and they're trying to make the experience better, make it safer, more productive, more efficient. And my hat's off to them. I am impressed thoroughly.
Yeah. Yep. Same here.
So awesome. Well, as always, man, we thank you for listening to the BulkLoads podcast. Like we said earlier, if you get a chance, make sure and go to YouTube, subscribe there. You'll see every week when Tyler drops these episodes on there, some that we will have video. We're excited to get that out there as well. It's fall time. Tyler, I don't think we just got some hoodies in, didn't we?
Yep, we did. And they're slick.
I think you'll probably be pushing something out on social media with some giveaways. Dude, I like these hoodies, and I'm not going to oversell this, but we got a different logo design. Really encompasses our customer. But these hoodies are kind of more of a lightweight fitted one.
Yep.
They're not real bulky. And I don't know about you, but I like some of these hoodies I wear, I almost feel choked, but these things are super lightweight. I mean, you can wear them in 70-degree weather, all the way down to as cold as you want to get, but like they're just, I think just a little more fitted, dressier, more comfortable type hoodie. So Tyler will probably be putting that out there. So if you get a chance, go to our social media channels. I mean, we're on Facebook, Instagram, and make sure and follow us there. So that way you get up to date when we push these promo items out there.
Yeah, we got a lot going on over here. Hoodies, new hats coming in, and we have a new logo for those as well, which a lot of guys are going to like. And also, we're going to be rolling out our next year's calendar. We're going to be putting that together.
Oh yeah, that's coming down. We need to get some people submitting.
Yeah, so
photos.
I'll be posting on social media, collecting some pictures there. So if you want your truck in next year's calendar, BulkLoads calendar, definitely let us know. Send us a message. Email support@bulkloads.com. All you got to do is send a picture of your truck and trailer, and you might have a chance to be in it.
This may be me, but we have a calendar in my kids' room, and every time I put them to bed, I see that calendar. It's right next to their beds, and like I get excited to see what the next month truck photo is going to be. I don't know why. I like, and sometimes I have to do a sneak peek to see who's on the November one or December one. And Tyler tries to match them with the season, and so we're super excited to get another roll of those trucks in and get you as our listener featured on our calendar. So
excited.
Awesome. Well, cool. Well, I'll close out of here. Thank you as always for listening to BulkLoads podcast. We love your support in us, and God bless.